Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Hollywood PANICS as second major lawsuit takes on DEI. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Paramount Global is getting sued again. This time it's for their CBS division, which they also own. They're discriminating against people because of their skin color, pulling people out of jobs they've had for a long time, they've been successful with, just so they can get a more diverse news anchor featured on their show. From The Hollywood Reporter, CBS sued by former anchor Jeff Vaughn over alleged racial quotas. The lawsuit, backed by a conservative group founded by Trump advisor Stephen Miller, America First Legal, claims Vaughn was replaced by a minority anchor in furtherance of a policy to increase diversity. We have to recognize, too, that anyone that participates in a lawsuit like this, suing Hollywood, claiming discrimination against them because of their race, or for any reason, it damages your reputation in Hollywood. You're making problems for them, not just as a troublemaker, but you're undermining their whole agenda. It is a very brave thing to do to sue a major company like this, especially so publicly, because it forces these companies to go on the defense. In their first lawsuit in this situation, they refused to hire a white writer and created different standards for him to work on a show. That's Brian Beneker, a script coordinator who claims heterosexual white men need extra qualifications to be hired on the network shows. Their defense in this lawsuit, the first one, is that a company is producing a creative product and they have every right to decide if they don't want to hire white people or black people or any specific sorts of groups of people based on their race, skin color, sexual preferences. That's up to them because it's their First Amendment speech. And if they feel that white people don't know how to speak the way they want to speak, then it's okay not to hire them. I'll continue to follow that lawsuit and this lawsuit as well. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want these updates. I often cite executive Marva Smalls over at Paramount as being responsible for this kind of nonsense. Marva is their global head of inclusion, among other things, and has the title of an executive vice president. She's listed on their website as a major player. And here's what she says on her own LinkedIn. Marva Smalls stands out as a visionary leader whose strategic acumen and commitment to diversity and inclusion couldn't even get past the first sentence. Commitment to diversity and inclusion have made a profound impact in global entertainment. At Paramount, where she serves as the Executive Vice President Global Head of Inclusion, Marva is at the forefront of implementing strategic initiatives that foster a culture of belonging. She is instrumental in driving innovation and business results that resonate across the company's vast footprint, which includes the iconic brands Paramount, BET, CBS, Nickelodeon, Showtime, MTV, and more, enjoyed by over 1 billion people in 180 countries. So you can't say she's not influential. You also can't say she's not trying to push an agenda. As she says here, her strategic vision for Nickelodeon and its parent company Paramount reflects a deep understanding of media's power to influence societal norms and values. That's the agenda. That's what she's doing. And that's why there's a lawsuit. CBS Broadcasting and its parent Paramount Global are facing a discrimination lawsuit from former anchor Jeff Vaughn, who accuses his ex-employers of implementing policies that favor the hiring of individuals from certain groups and firing older white heterosexual men. Vaughn, in his lawsuit filed on Monday in California federal court, says he was replaced in 2022 by a younger minority news anchor. He points to a CBS goal to ensure that half of all writers be non-white by 2023, and an initiative requiring half of all cast members on their reality shows to be minorities. Quote, CBS decided that there were too many white males at CBS, and it acted accordingly. It needed to solve its white problem by firing successful white males. And they have claimed they have a white problem. It is this bad. From Variety, CBS has a white problem. Executive blast toxic culture at network in explosive letter. This was all the way back in 2019. Bad things have been going on in Hollywood for a long time now. The filing of the lawsuit follows a similar complaint from Brian Beneker, a script coordinator for SEAL Team, who alleges that he was repeatedly denied a staff writer job after the implementation of an illegal policy of race and sex balancing that promoted the hiring of less qualified applicants who were members of more preferred groups, namely those who identify as minorities, LGBT, or women. What's a guy got to do to get a job these days? Don't answer that. Like Benneker, Vaughn is represented by America First Legal Foundation, a conservative group founded by Stephen Miller, a White House policy advisor under the Trump administration. Miller has been incredibly effective. This is like the conservative response to the ACLU, standing up for individuals that were treated wrong, not just under diversity, equity, and inclusion, under multiple cases. America First Legal is an absolute nonstop justice machine. From the actual lawsuit, Jeff Vaughn, the plaintiff, is suing CBS Broadcasting, its owner, Paramount Global, and Wendy McMahon, an individual. Wendy McMahon works for CBS. Nature of the action. This lawsuit is about defendant's discrimination against Mr. Vaughn based on his race, sex, age, and sexual orientation. He was removed from his job as a highly successful news anchor because he was not a member of the defendant's preferred groups. Mr. Vaughn is an Emmy Award-winning news anchor with over 30 years of experience in broadcast journalism. He is currently 58 years old. Vaughn worked for CBS for 8 years and was the primary evening anchor for the KCBS 5 p.m., KCAL 8 p.m., and 10 p.m. newscasts. His ratings were soaring. There was only one problem. Mr. Vaughn is an older white heterosexual male. Despite the show's success, his great performance, and his exceptional working relationship with his co-anchors, CBS removed Mr. Vaughn in place of a younger minority news anchor because he was an experienced older white heterosexual male. This was a violation of Mr. Vaughn's equal rights under 42 U.S.C. 1981. Defendants further violated Mr. Vaughn's civil rights under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 by intentionally discriminating against him because of his race, sex, and sexual orientation. And defendants further violated Mr. Vaughn's civil rights by violating the Age Discrimination and Employment Act by discriminating against him because of his age. Here are the factual allegations against CBS. Mr. Vaughn, one of CBS Broadcasting's top news anchors, worked at CBS for almost 7 years when he found out that CBS intended to find his replacement. In May of 2022, Joel Vilmanay, General Manager at CBS News Los Angeles, told him he would not be working at CBS in 6 months and that he was going to be replaced. This came as a shock to Mr. Vaughn, who had been there for almost 7 years, had excellent ratings, and loved his job. But CBS wanted him out. Management never provided a direct reason for his removal from his job. On May 2, 2022, Mr. Vaughn asked the Vice President News Director at CBS why he was being let go. The executive replied, "It's not about the ratings." Indeed, it was not about the company's success. It was about something else. Defendants, in an effort to increase diversity of their staff, implemented a policy that favored the hiring of individuals of certain groups and firing or refusing to hire older white heterosexual males. CBS executives, through a series of public statements, said the quiet part out loud. On April 23, 2019, former CBS executive Whitney Davis penned an article which claimed that CBS had a, quote, white problem. In 2020, CBS Entertainment Group set a goal to ensure that the 2022 to 2023 broadcast season, half of all writers will be non-white. That's this citation from the Los Angeles Times. CBS announces diversity overhaul of writers' rooms and script development program. CBS Entertainment Group also adopted an initiative requiring 50% of the cast members of their reality shows to be Black, Indigenous, or people of color. CEO of CBS Entertainment Group, George Cheeks, quote, set a goal that all writers' rooms on the network primetime series to be staffed 40% BIPOC in the 2021 to 22 season. 17 out of 21 shows hit or exceeded that target, according to a 2022 article quoting Mr. Cheeks. Yes, his name is really Mr. Cheeks, not just a nickname. Further, in Paramount's 2021 to 2022 Environmental, Social, and Governance report, the company boasted that 56% of the projects in development were from BIPOC creators. On April 5th, 2022, in station town halls over Zoom, Executive Vice President of Paramount's Entertainment, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department said, quote, our culture of belonging has double female representation, triple people of color representation, and we're only getting started. and, quote, we would not move on the doubling of females, tripling on the hiring of people of color if it was not demanded. Demanded by who? That's the question. Probably this lady, Marva Smalls. This effort went into high gear in CBS newsrooms after McMahon was hired as CBS News and Stations president in May of 2021. It was the same approach adopted by Vilmanay, who operated underneath McMahon. McMahon was publicly recognized for her work, quote, to make the station group more diverse on both sides of the camera and in leadership positions. Her goals were clear. Quote, under McMahon, CBS News and Stations has prioritized diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, hired and promoted several women and or people of color to serve in key roles. As a 57-year-old heterosexual male, Mr. Vaughn did not meet those criteria. CBS decided that there were too many white males at CBS, and it acted accordingly. It needed to solve its, quote, white problem by firing successful white males. Long before CBS told Mr. Vaughn he was going to be let go, he was excluded and ostracized in numerous ways. For CBS News' 20th anniversary 9/11 special coverage, Mr. Vaughn was completely left out and did not even appear on the program. That was extremely odd when he had remarkable experience with that historic incident. He was at Ground Zero in Manhattan, reporting on the events of September 11, 2001. He was the only member of the CBS News team who was there. Let me repeat. Literally, this guy Vaughn, who is suing CBS, was the only member of the CBS News team who was actually a reporter on site during September 11th. And they didn't include him in the 20-year retrospective. In planning the 9/11 special coverage, CBS management asked everyone for story ideas. Mr. Vaughn shared personal pictures, videos, and interviews that he conducted at the Twin Towers site with President George Bush, Senator Hillary Clinton, and Mayor Rudy Giuliani. A reasonable person would assume that his experience would be invaluable to the special and that CBS would embrace it. But Mr. Vaughn was told that his experience would make others uncomfortable. Why was never explained. He was not included in the 9/11 special. His African-American colleague hosted the show, and reporters from minority groups hosted all the featured stories. Not one of them had personally been present at Ground Zero reporting during the events of 9/11. He was also the only person from the entire CBS News team that was left out of the November 2021 Chips for Kids charity event, another act of racial, gender, and age discrimination. In 2022, Mr. Vaughn was excluded from other events that he normally attended annually, including America Fest 4th of July ceremonies, Children's Hospital, Taste of Soul, and Race for the Cure. Mr. Vaughn was also excluded from multiple major field anchor events, including the Rams Super Bowl victory parade in February 2022. In the fall of 2022, CBS News implemented a new promotional campaign for its evening news shows, which included on-air and billboard promotions for its evening newscast. Mr. Vaughn was the premier evening anchor at the time, but was left off the promotions entirely. I mean, when they want to eliminate people, when they want to erase people, these diversity people sure know how to do it. The billboard included every one of Mr. Vaughn's co-anchors, all of whom were either racial or gender minorities. He was the only anchor not placed on the billboard. The television advertisement promotion was the same. All of his co-anchors who were either racial or gender minorities appeared in the commercials, but Mr. Vaughn was excluded. Additionally, Mr. Vaughn was excluded from KCAL and KCBS social events, but his co-anchors who were either racial or gender minorities were always invited. A few days before the end of Mr. Vaughn's contract, Vilmanay called Mr. Vaughn's agent and said that they couldn't find the right person to fill his position, asking to extend his contract through the holidays of 2022. Mr. Vaughn agreed in hopes that ultimately Vilmanay would reconsider and decide to keep him on the team. Mr. Vaughn wanted to keep his job, but Vilmanay made himself completely unavailable to meet with Mr. Vaughn. He would not talk to him on the phone, let alone meet with him in person. He's dodging him not just because he's embarrassed and he's being a bad executive by not communicating with the people that help make your work possible, but also because they're trying to eliminate paper trails, evidence, even documentation of conversations that Vaughn could have taken and written contemporaneous notes on, which can be used in a lawsuit like this one. Anything they could do to make it impossible for Vaughn to function or to protect his rights. Vilmanay intentionally avoided contact with Mr. Vaughn in the office. Indeed, despite Mr. Vaughn's attempt to negotiate and despite his high ratings, CBS removed him when they finally found, quote, the right person. On July 6, 2023 and July 24, 2023, CBS held auditions for Mr. Vaughn's position. Serious contenders were brought on set to audition with Mr. Vaughn's co-anchors. All of the individuals who came on set to audition for his position were younger racial minorities. Management ushered in and out Mr. Vaughn's prospective replacements while he was at work. On August 30th, 2023, Mr. Vaughn received notice that he was going to be terminated. CBS asked him to continue working until his replacement started. To make matters worse and to further humiliate Mr. Vaughn, Vilmanay asked him to publicly announce that he was saying goodbye and that it was his own decision to leave. Mr. Vaughn refused to lie on the air. And that's what a real man does. You don't lie for these people. Make them own everything they do. You want to break the law? You're breaking the law. We're not going to create evidence that you're going to use against him to say it was his choice to leave and to tell the audience it was his choice to leave. Really, really bad people. After his last day, Friday, September 22, 2023, the KCL News team issued a statement live on the air where CBS implied that Mr. Vaughn left of his own accord. It said, quote, Friday was Jeff Vaughn's last newscast with KCL News. Now, he didn't want to make a big fuss about leaving, but we wanted you to know. He has been a vital part of the KCL News team for 8 years, and we've taken great pride working with Jeff to share your stories. The statement was false. Mr. Vaughn did not decide to leave. He was never given a reason for his firing, but it was obvious. He was too old and not a member of the right race, sex, or sexual orientation category for CBS's retention policy. Mr. Vaughn wanted to continue on the CBS News team, grow his viewership, and foster his relationship with the community. Mr. Vaughn, a 4-time Emmy Award-winning legend of broadcasting, with over 30 years of experience as a broadcasting journalist at the peak of his career, was not fired for poor performance or because there was somebody better. He was fired because he's an older white heterosexual male. Chauncey Glover, a young African-American male who checked CBS's diversity boxes, replaced Mr. Vaughn, though he had minimal experience. Shortly after he was replaced with Mr. Vaughn, Glover appeared front and center on a KCAL news billboard. Glover is not better at his job than Mr. Vaughn, and he does not have more experience than Mr. Vaughn. There is no category in which Glover outperforms Mr. Vaughn. I like how blatant they are with this lawsuit. They're being very clear with this lawsuit. They're letting you know, don't try to say he's a better communicator. Don't try to say he does this better. Don't try to say he does that better. The only thing he is not an older white heterosexual male. That he's doing better, but that's not legal. You can't do that, and that's why they're getting sued. The truth is, CBS News, at the direction of McMahon, implemented an illegal hiring, promotion, or retention policy based on age, race, sexual orientation, and sex. Mr. Vaughn lost his job because he did not fit any of the desired diversity categories. Defendants have discriminated against Mr. Vaughn in violation of his constitutional and civil rights. Defendants' actions have caused Mr. Vaughn to incur damages consisting of lost wages, including back pay and future pay, as well as loss of benefits and expected wage increases under his union contract. The lost amount of wages and benefits will be proven at trial, but is believed to be in excess of $5 million. Mr. Vaughn exhausted his administrative remedies by filing a charge of discrimination with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission on February 23, 2024. America First Legal is great with those complaints. They file multiple EEOC complaints, but we are seeing more and more of these lawsuits, and America First Legal is a big part of it. Definitely check out their website. Brian Beneker and Jeffrey Vaughn deserve justice and deserve their days in court. I'll continue to cover these lawsuits. I don't see these lawsuits getting dismissed. Paramount and CBS are going to have to explain themselves, and they're also going to have to follow the law. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.